Good, because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War whose boyish charms are wasted on me, but obviously appealed to that young woman I sent out to evaluate you. Oh, dear me, I'm terribly sorry. The MG5 EV, quite possibly the first ever electric estate car in the UK. But is it any good? Should you care? Why? Let's find out, shall we? MG, let's go.
Here we are with anchors tying us to what we'll call home, even if the sight of it has not yet touched our eyes. But here we are and we're together, even if we are apart. And we're together when we're together. Something big is happening among us. It's not as if we don't have to deal with our shortcomings. It's not as if we don't have to wipe away the tears. From time to time we wouldn't lie.
So, welcome to another episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. For one final time in our recording session, although by the time you see this will be another review out after this, we are in Dudley in the West Midlands and testing out the brand new 2021 MG5 EV Exclusive. This car has been lent to us by Summit Garage, a review of a local MG dealer here in Dudley. So thanks, Summit Garage. Fummit. With me today is Mr. Franks, my usual videographer and co-founder of Tweed Jacket Reviews. Before we get into more detail about the new MG5 EV, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video and leave a comment below. It really helps us to rank higher on YouTube and to spread the love of tweed jackets all over the internet. So the MG5 is heavily based on a car that's sold in China as the Rovi or Roway EI5. That car is only available as an estate, like this body style here, and it only actually came out in this country a couple of months ago. This example has just over 1,000 miles on the clock. It's actually been sold to a customer of Summit Garage. It was their demonstrator, and we're very grateful to Mr. X for letting us drive this car, because technically this is now his. One of the first things you're aware of in this car is just how remarkably easy it is to drive around town. It doesn't have a petrol engine at all, it's fully electric, and the range, according to the WLTP figures, is 214 miles. In town that actually increases to 276 miles, although you'll need to be on maximum regen. I'll just adjust regenerative braking here by using the KERS switch, and you'll need to be in the economy mode. I've just found today that we don't really need to be in anything other than the economy mode, because the acceleration on this car is brutal. In the sport mode, 0 to 60 takes allegedly 7.7 seconds, and the electric motor develops 154 horsepower. The battery is 52.5 kilowatt hours, and there is both Type 2 and CCS charging capability. The charge is actually at the front in this car, like on a ZSCV. I had a 2017 Seat Toledo 1 litre TSI Excellence. It was actually the first car that ever appeared on the Lloyd Vehicle Consulting channel for 3 years until July 2020, and the ethos of that car reminds me so much of this. In Seat's range at the time, they had the Leon, that was the sort of benchmark industry standard small hatch that was, you know, quite premium feeling and quite sporty feeling. MG, of course, have the ZS and ZSCV, and they've been very well regarded since they become on the market in the last couple of years. The MG ZSCV itself is the most popular review and the most popular walk around on my entire channel, so I'm very fond of them indeed. You might have seen various videos of the ZSCV on the channel, and even recently the 1 year ownership report with my friend Richard Jackson. So that's an industry sort of standard car in a way, and it really has been a very big sales success for MG in this country. This is not a replacement for the MG ZS EV, and it's really a very different type of experience. This car doesn't have the MG Pilot suite of extra safety and technology features. This car doesn't have the panoramic sunroof that does. The infotainment system in this car is the generation used in the ZS EV. It's not like the new MGHS plug-in hybrid that you've probably already seen on the channel that we filmed yesterday. It's really more aimed at converting people who are driving normal cars, like, I don't know, a Seat Leon ST or something like that, into electric cars. The range starts actually from under £25,000 when the government grant is taken into consideration. That's a £3,000 grant, by the way. This particular model with metallic paint was around £27,500, and this car's got a few extra bits on it as well because it has the MG protection pack, like mud flaps and things like that. But if we take that example, the Leon versus the Toledo further a bit, if we're using that example, the Leon is a bit more like the ZS EV. It's a car that really, you know, most people would go straight away and buy. And actually, at the moment, they're doing a special deal on the ZS EV that means that the price is well under £25,000. But this is more like the Toledo. It's got a bigger battery. It's got more boot space. It's a more conventional shape. It doesn't have quite all the sort of latest features and doesn't quite have some of the same materials as on like an MGHS plug-in hybrid. And yet, for a lot of people, changing from a petrol estate car, something like the Leon ST, which actually comparably equipped the 1.5 litre petrol engine and an automatic gearbox, costs about the same as this, then moving from that into an electric car. One of the cars that I've actually had on the channel that's electric is the Vauxhall Corsa F Corsa E, which is very confusing, but the Corsa F is the 6th generation of Corsa from when they were launched in '82, and the Corsa E is the model designation. So the Corsa F Corsa E, that has actually less range than this, and it costs more money in any form. The base model, I think, is about £28,000, and the top of the range one that I tested was £31,000. And of course, an MG5 comes with a standard 7-year, 80,000 mile warranty, whereas a Vauxhall doesn't. It's a 3-year warranty, and you just don't get the amount of space in it. I mean, sure, the top of the range Corsa E that I tested had a few more extra features than this, but it wasn't, you know, that similar in spec. And this car is bigger and has better range, and yet it costs less. There also are some deficiencies in the Corsa E's cabin. It's not the nicest one they've had because it's based on a practical super mini that you can buy for under £20,000 in petrol form. So MG have had to cut a few corners to actually make this car this sort of price. One of the things they've done is take the Chinese market Rowe or Roe V. That name sounds particularly familiar to a car that used to be on sale in Britain but no longer is. I wonder which one. I wonder which one it is. So as I've said, but basing this car on the Roe V or Rowe EI5 has meant that they can make considerable cost savings. This car does resemble a certain previous generation German estate car. I can't tell you what that is for legal reasons, but that's okay. It doesn't look ugly, it doesn't look out of place, and you know, the sort of buyer this is aimed at wouldn't really care that much about that kind of thing. You know, a ZS EV or an HS plug-in hybrid looks a lot more funky than this. I've just put the regen braking into the strongest setting, and you can to an extent drive this car in one pedal mode. It's not the same as Nissan Leaf E-pedal or anything like that, but it is very, very easy. The suspension's quite soft, like most of MG's range at the moment, with the exception of the MG3. And the handling is quite good. The only thing I would say, if you put it in economy mode like I'm in the moment, then the steering becomes very, very light. What you want, if you are an enthusiastic driver, is to put the car into sport mode, and that will weight the steering up and give you much sharper acceleration. However, this is Tweed Jacket Reviews, and so we drive in a moderate fashion. We'll come to the equipment levels and also some of the charging times and also the PCP finance prices of this car shortly, but I have to say, having driven both the ZS EV and this car, I don't know which one I prefer. It's very, very difficult to say. Perhaps if we look at this car in more detail now, I'll be able to form some sort of conclusion. I wish I could dramatically pull on the handbrake and switch the engine off, but we've got no engine and an electronic handbrake, so we'll have to make do with that. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. I'm really started to like this car, actually. Anyway, let's have a look at the even more practical side of the MG5 EV and take a look in the boot. One of the things to point out on this exclusive model is the keyless entry, so you can see there. Got 16-inch wheels on all models of the MG5 EV, and also we've got these roof rails on this exclusive model too. No electric boot opening, but the sort of practical person who buys one of these cars won't need something like that. Boot volume is actually the largest of any car in the current MG range. It's about 470 litres if you load up to the load blind here, and then 578 litres if you load to the roof. These seats do split 60-40, and we've got this boot liner in here because this car's been fitted with the optional protection pack. One of the things I love about this MG5 is it's got a space saver spare wheel. I can't remember if this is standard or not, but the fact you can have a space saver spare wheel in an electric car is absolutely incredible. I'm very, very fond of that. No hooks in the boot, which seems to be typical MG style at the moment, but if we open up this rather natty case, this is something that all MG5 EVs will come with. There is the 3-pin socket for charging. You don't get a Type 2 charging cable, that's an optional extra, but it's one I suggest you invest in, and you can keep them in these little side pockets there. One of the other things I like about this car is that whichever side you want to close the boot, on the left or the right, there are these handy handles for doing so. One of the things to bear in mind if you're considering one of these cars against a ZS EV, and you know, to be honest, why wouldn't you, is the fact that it's not as easy to get in and out of this car because it's not an SUV. There is no raised ride height. There is no, like, you know, acres of headroom. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the headroom is perfectly fine. I'm 5'11" and there's plenty of that. Knee room's absolutely fine. The one thing you can't do is put your feet underneath these seats. So that is actually perhaps an issue for some people. It's perfectly comfortable in here. There's no reclining rear seats like there would be in an MGHS plug-in hybrid, for example, but that's fine. It's a practical car for simple people. One thing you don't get in a ZS EV at all is this rear armrest, which has 2 cup holders in it. That's very good. The fabric in here is actually Artico leather. It's not real leather like it would be in an HS if you were going for an exclusive one, but that's okay. It feels rather good anyway. There are these grab handles here, and also twin map pockets and 2 USB ports down there, which really are a bit of a requirement on an electric car these days, I would say, or most cars. The door fabric here is it feels good. There are hard plastics all over the place, but really that's one of the areas that MG have decided to kind of save a bit of money in order to bring the price point down a bit. You know, for a car that starts at under £25,000, it's pretty good for an estate car in terms of the space, and it's pretty well equipped. The interior of the MG5 EV is actually pretty pleasant. A lot of the fixtures and fittings you'll find in here are taken from the ZS EV, such as this infotainment system, the rotary gear selector, the electronic parking brake, and even these heater and ventilation controls. There is no climate control in here, it's standard air conditioning, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. Materials feel good, they feel pretty sturdy. No soft touch material on top of the dash, but my old Seat Leon didn't have soft touch materials on top of the dash. I never used to complain about that. The switches on here are just, again, out of a ZS EV, and so is the steering wheel. There's no sort of red stitching like there would have been in the old pre-facelift MG3, like the one that my lady wife used to have for 3 years. But again, it's just nice and simple, and everything is logically laid out. I very much like the fact that we've got the driving mode selector, the regenerative braking control, and a switch here to show you about how much range you've got, all laid out here. Very easy to see. It's not buried into some menu. I also like the fact that we have analog dials on either side of a digital cluster here. A lot of people say it needs to be all digital. I'm not so sure. I do like having this power gauge and the speedometer just laid out very simply. It's a very easy car to understand. Right, here are my secret mission documents. Let's see if they fit in the glove box. Yes, they do. Another advantage over the ZS EV. If we switch the car on, there's obviously no noise from the engine because there's no engine. There's a nice little dial sweep and it tells me the system is ready. In the centre we can go down through all the driving modes. Quite annoyingly, every time you turn the car off, if you're in economy mode or sport mode, it puts you back onto normal, which I don't really like. Anyway, we've got 80% charge, rather 86% charge at the moment. It's saying there's a range of 159 miles. Now that would be better if we were only going to drive in the city, and also if the weather was a bit warmer. It is only about 9 degrees today, so it's quite cold. It's very easy to see all what you need. You can cycle through various options and you know, look at the tyre pressures, look at the sort of drive here, and we can also look at our effectively fuel economy for electric cars, which is miles per kilowatt hour. At the moment it's saying 2.7, but we've only gone 5 miles. That would increase if we went a bit further, I think. The WLTP figure for this car is 3.6 miles per kilowatt hour, by the way. So a nice high quality screen. The centre screen is exactly the same as ZS EV. It's about 7, I think it's an 8-inch actually in this car. The pre-facelift petrol ZS was a 7-inch, and it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay very prominently displayed. There are not as many features as on a ZS EV because we haven't got MG Pilot, and we haven't got the corresponding blue stalk here, which would suggest that. We still do have a couple of things that we can do. We can turn on and off the stability control, and we can look at lighting and things like that. The car does have a standard reversing camera and rear parking sensors, and that is brilliant. However, you can't get a 360 camera, and there are no front parking sensors. Those are a dealer fit only option, which might or might not be a problem for you. For me, that's not really a problem, all this extra stuff. But if you're used to a ZS EV, or even, you know, a higher priced electric vehicle, it's just worth bearing in mind before you make your decision. So of course we've got on this top of the range car MG's iGo navigation system, which does take a while to boot up. We'll leave that to do its thing whilst we look at other stuff. We have automatic lights and wipers in this car, and also all these controls on the steering wheel, which is MG's standard steering wheel now really for all their cars. There are the controls, physical buttons for the heating ventilation, which I really like. That's something I find a lot more practical than burying buttons in a touchscreen. Also here, there is the mode for changing between economy, normal and sport. There is regenerative braking selector. There's 1, 2 and 3. I normally put regenerative braking when I drive an electric car in mode 3. It's not as fierce as in a Nissan Leaf with E-pedal, so you do have to sometimes gently touch the brakes when you're in traffic. It won't entirely bring it to a stop just by using the accelerator. There's a battery remaining lever there just so you can see what's going on. Down below the rotary gear selector, we have 2 cup holders, one larger, one smaller one. And also, we have a nice, sensibly sized cubby hole in the centre armrest. Visibility in this car, it reminds me very much of something like a Seat Leon ST, unsurprisingly. The front visibility is pretty good. You sit a lot lower in this car than you would do in any of that MG's SUV range, and even lower than an MG3. I quite like this driving position like this. It feels comfortable to me. The only thing I would say is that you've got to fiddle around with this quite a lot to get the right position. You've got to pull the steering wheel out, for me, quite a long way to sit like this. But when you do, it does feel like a sports car, although this really isn't. It's a practical electric estate vehicle. The secret mission documents as well do fit in the side door bins. And we do have some sort of leatherette material here and on the door there. I'll just tell you as well, whilst we're here, that the car takes 18 hours to charge on a 3-pin plug. On a Type 2 charger at 7 kilowatts, it takes 8.5 hours. That's a typical speed for a home charger. On a CCS 50 kilowatt charger, it takes 50 minutes to get to 80%. And on a 100 kilowatt CCS charger, it takes 80% is achieved in 40 minutes. The charging port is at the front of the car. We'll just do an insert shot of it there. And unlike on an MG ZSEV, it doesn't light up at night, unfortunately. So if you were to take this car on, say, a 4-year PCP deal, at the moment the APR on this car is 0%. Obviously you can't buy this particular car because it's been sold to Mr. X, who have very kindly allowed us to film it today. But you can buy another one, but actually Summit Garages at the time of recording have just had another MG5 delivered to them. So if you wanted to go for an exclusive model like this and you do 8,000 miles a year, if you put down a deposit of, I believe it's about £4,000, it's £269 a month over the 4-year period. The balloon payment on that would be just over £9,000 should you wish to then keep the car outright. So those figures actually, again, very comparable to something like a Seat Leon Estate. And the plug-in hybrid version of Seat Leon Estate costs £32,000, whereas the normal petrol one costs about the same as one of these, between about £24,000 and £27,000. It's very worth sort of bearing in mind just how this car has really cornered the market for good value electric vehicles, along with the ZSEV. In conclusion, then, what do I think of the 2021 MG5 EV? I really like this car. I understand the criticism saying this car looks derivative and it doesn't have as many features as a ZSEV, but you can just buy a ZSEV. It's still on the market. For somebody like me, I like the extra practicality of this car. I like the simplicity of this car. I like the increased performance and the increased range over the ZSEV. When you look at it objectively, having the same price as a combustion engine car on an electric one really merits consideration. Oh, dear me, I'm terribly sorry. Seems like your hunch was right, 007. Too bad the evil queen of numbers won't let you play it. Thank you for watching this episode of Tweed Jacket Reviews. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I find cars for people on a professional basis. To find out more, please visit my website or my Facebook page. Links are in the description below. Thank you.